I'm honored to introduce my friend, attorney Roderick Ventura. Rod is an attorney who has practiced environmental law, educational law, Indian law, and various other disciplines. He's currently the Deputy Director of New Mexico Educational Retirement Board, the pension fund that provides retirement benefit for 50,000 retired educators in New Mexico. He was born in New York to a Filipino parents. His father, Abraham, was from Ilocos Norte, and mother, Angelita, was from Lilo village in Laguna. He earned scholarship to spend his senior year of high school in Germany. This changed his entire mindset. He was placed in a host family who aligned themselves with the Green Party, a party that actually has some influence and direction in Germany. There in Germany, he became involved in environmental movement, began to comprehend global politics, and grew his long hair. Returning to the United States, Rod attended Cornell University and studied communication law with minor in rural sociology. He attended law school at the University of Colorado. He worked for DMA, Equal Legal Services, on the Navajo Nation, where he worked for 5 years while living in the reservation with his family. DMA is the acronym for Navajo phrase, but it means attorneys who work for the economic revitalization of the people. At DMA, he handled a case representing 2 residents of Crown Point area of New Mexico who were opposing uranium mining and a checkerboard area of the reservation. Through this case, he got to know the New Mexico Environmental Law Center, NMELC, where he later worked as a staff attorney for 5 years. At MMELC, he fought for underrepresented New Mexico communities who were fighting large corporations that were damaging environment and disregarding local communities' concerns. Rod has served as president of the Filipino American Foundation of New Mexico, the Asian American Association of New Mexico, and as officer of the Filipino American Community Council. He was the founding board member of the New Mexico Asian Family Center. He's married to Josette Haddad. They have 3 children, Milo, Sonia, and Molly. Ladies and gentlemen, Attorney Roderick Ventura.
Thanks a lot, Richard. First of all, I want to say thanks to all the other Pamana awardees. It's a really small world. Dr. Gonzaga, 2 of my kids were born in Rehoboth McKinley Christian Hospital in Gallup. Maybe. And say hi to all you Gallupians out there. We loved living in Window Rock, and Gallup was always where we went to the flea market every Saturday and to the library. It was great. And Myri, you're an educator. I work at the Educational Retirement Board, so I help the pensions of all the teachers in New Mexico, so that is a pretty common thing as well. And Lester, you play basketball. I watch basketball. So it's really great. My name is Rod Ventura. My parents were immigrants to this country. I want to tell you a little bit about community today. And I think what we need to do is we need to revisit our definition of community. So, in order to do that, I want to share with you 3 stories. They're stories that you probably already know. The first story is Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And you might say, what does that have to do with community? Well, it had this Anglo-looking princess woman, and she left her home to live with 7 short men. Whether they were Filipino or not, I'm not saying. But one of them was named Doc. So what we learned from that is community can be people that you don't expect to be in your community. Invite all those people that you know into your community. The second story I want to tell you about to learn about community is the story of Moses leading the Hebrews from Egypt. And we all know this story. It's a biblical story. This story is great. I love this story for so many reasons. They've got the plagues, which is hilarious. You know, they've got him saying to God, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. And God says, all right, bring your brother. And so he does it when he brings his brother. But the best part of this story is that when he finally gets the Hebrews, the Pharaoh to agree to let the Hebrews out, here he is. He's got this whole bunch of Hebrews who have to get out of Egypt because there's a whole bunch of people, armed Egyptians, coming after him. And he goes to these people and he says, you know what we're going to do? Let's run to this body of water, which we have no idea how to cross. And they did it out of faith, and they got across, and then they wandered in the desert for 40 years. And what we learned from that story about community, it's okay to be lost. It's okay not to know where you are sometimes. You still have your community. The third story I want to tell you is a little bit closer to home. It's a story called Korematsu versus the United States. This is a legal case that every lawyer learns when they go to law school. And what we learned about Korematsu versus the United States was that the ruling of the Supreme Court in this case was wrong. Everybody agrees on this now, but nobody did back then. Fred Korematsu lived in California, or on the West Coast, during World War II, when Executive Order 9066 was issued by the president, and he was told, like all Japanese Americans, to leave the West Coast. And he said no. He wasn't going to leave, even though his whole community left. And he was put in jail in California, and the ACLU went up to him and said, you know what you should do? You should sue the United States. And he did. And that's the case, Korematsu versus the United States, and he lost. The United States Supreme Court basically said it was okay for the United States to put these people away despite the fact that they had done nothing wrong. So what we learned from that case is not what happened right there. But years later, back in the 1980s, Fred Korematsu was still alive. And he found new evidence, the evidence that basically said that the United States in that court case had hidden evidence that proved that the Japanese Americans didn't do anything wrong, were no harm to the United States, and that didn't get let in as evidence. He took that case to district court in California, and he won. 40 or so years later, he won. So what we learned from that case is you're going to be lonely sometimes when you have community. You may be separated sometimes when you have community. But if you keep at it and never give up, you will succeed. My name is Ventura. My parents were immigrants. Thank you.